He was handsome, educated, charming, the kind of man parents wanted their daughters to date. And he used every bit of that trust to become one of America's most notorious serial killers. This is the story of Ted Bundy, a man who lived two lives with chilling precision. By day, he was a law student, a political volunteer, even a crisis hotline counselor. By night, he was a predator who would claim at least 30 victims across 7 states. But what made Bundy different wasn't just the crimes he committed. It was how long he got away with them, how he escaped from custody twice, and how he ultimately changed the way law enforcement hunts serial killers forever. This is the true story of the man behind the mask. Theodore Robert Bundy was born in 1946 in Burlington, Vermont. On the surface, his early life seemed unremarkable. He was intelligent, articulate, and ambitious. He studied psychology at the University of Washington. He worked on political campaigns. He even saved a drowning child once. People described him as charismatic, trustworthy, normal. But beneath that carefully constructed exterior, something else was growing. Bundy began his killing spree in 1974. His victims were young women, often college students with long, dark hair parted down the middle. He had a type, and he had a method. He would approach them in public places, sometimes wearing a fake cast or using crutches. He'd ask for help carrying books to his car, a simple request, non-threatening. By the time they realized the danger, it was too late. What made Bundy so dangerous was his ability to blend in. He didn't fit the profile of a killer. He looked like someone you'd sit next to in class, someone you'd trust. And that was exactly what he counted on. For years, Bundy stayed one step ahead of law enforcement. He operated across multiple states: Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado. Each jurisdiction worked in isolation. They didn't connect the dots. In 1975, a Utah Highway Patrol officer pulled Bundy over for a traffic violation. Inside his Volkswagen Beetle, the officer found handcuffs, a ski mask, rope, and an ice pick. Bundy was arrested, but he talked his way into a lesser charge. He was eventually linked to an attempted kidnapping and convicted in 1976. But even behind bars, Bundy was planning his next move. In June 1977, while acting as his own attorney, Bundy was granted access to a law library in Aspen, Colorado. During a recess, he jumped from a second-story window and escaped into the mountains. He was free for 6 days before being recaptured. But that was just a practice run. 6 months later, in December 1977, Bundy escaped again. This time, he sawed through a light fixture in his cell ceiling and crawled through the ductwork. He made his way into the apartment of a jailer, changed into civilian clothes, and walked out the front door. By the time authorities realized he was gone, Bundy had already boarded a plane to Chicago. From there, he made his way to Florida. He had escaped from a maximum security facility, and he was about to commit some of his most horrific crimes. In Florida, Bundy's control began to slip. In January 1978, he attacked multiple women in a sorority house at Florida State University. Witnesses saw a man fleeing the scene. Weeks later, he committed another crime in Lake City, but it was a routine traffic stop that finally ended his run. On February 15, 1978, a police officer in Pensacola pulled over a stolen Volkswagen. The driver gave a fake name. But when the officer ran the plates, the truth came out. It was Ted Bundy. This time, there would be no escape. Bundy's trial became a media sensation. It was one of the first to be televised nationally. Bundy, ever the performer, represented himself. He cross-examined witnesses. He gave interviews. He even proposed to his girlfriend in the courtroom, exploiting an old Florida law to create a common law marriage. But behind the charm was something darker. Forensic psychologists who studied Bundy identified him as a psychopath. He had no genuine empathy, no remorse. To him, his victims weren't people. They were objects. Bundy manipulated everyone around him. He used his intelligence and good looks as weapons, and for years, it worked. In 1979, he was convicted and sentenced to death. On January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in Florida's electric chair. Outside the prison, crowds gathered. Some cheered, others held signs. But perhaps the most chilling thing about Ted Bundy isn't what he did. It's how easily he hid in plain sight. He was the neighbor, the classmate, the volunteer. He was a reminder that monsters don't always look like monsters. And sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one you never suspect.